Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. Today is Thursday, January 14th, 2021. Today, for the first time in a very long time, I actually have the title of the episode and know what I want to talk about. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about, and what came to me was this idea. The song Blinded by the Light, which apparently was written by Bruce Springsteen originally and recorded by, let me just check, Manfred Mann's Earth Band. I thought about that song. It goes, blinded by the light. I don't actually know what the words are. I thought about that song because I was talking with a friend about vaccines and about COVID and about politics, and what came to me was this idea of being blinded by the fight, not by the light. And so let's talk about that. Being blinded by the fight. So I think a lot of times we are struggling with many things emotionally, and that fear, that anger, that helplessness, that confusion, that hopelessness, a lot of that frankly, the love, the affection, the strong connection that we feel towards someone, or strong repulsion that we feel towards someone, can really blind us towards what's actually happening. I think so much over especially over this last year, but over the last couple of years, I've looked at friends and family who've supported certain things politically, and I've been like, how the hell can they believe this? I felt just baffled and absolutely confused how they could believe such a thing. And at points recently, I've noticed I've become very angry and frustrated, and like wanting to call these people stupid and idiotic. Like, how could they be so dumb to believe these things? And in talking with a friend about the vaccine, she opened up and shared some of the fears that she had about getting the vaccine, about the struggles she's had being a healthcare worker dealing with COVID. Her family got COVID, so many different things, the anxiety that she's experienced. And she helped to remind me that a lot of times when we are doing what seem to be dumb things, it's because we're dealing with a lot of other things, or we're trying to. That we have this internal fight with so many other things that we really get blinded by that fight. We get blinded by the struggle and the emotional milieu is that the right word? that we're dealing with, that we don't see things clearly. And it's easy for me to cast blame on other people and be like, oh, this is why people aren't seeing things clearly. But it's not just other people, it's ourselves as well. It's me too. There are plenty of things that can really overwhelm me and make me think, not super clearly on things. So, for example, I was on this call the other day with a guy who started a really large digital kind of sales platform. And he was talking about experimenting with the way to do business, employment model. He's like, oh, we don't have people who work full-time. They work part-time. After 20 hours a week, their hourly rate drops in half. So it's an anti-overtime to try to discourage people from working full-time on this. So we don't get stuck in this competition to see who could work more. And he talked about different experiments in this way. And I said, I would love to experiment in that way. I'm terrified that I'll inadvertently do something to break the law. And he goes, I think your fears are unfounded. I'm like, huh? He's just like, yeah. He says, I have a lawyer and I'm an accountant. I've been working with them for like 9 or 10 years. And, when I think about doing something, I run it by the lawyer or the accountant, and they go, well, that's crazy. And then I say, yeah, but, if I wanted to do it, how would I do it? And they say, I mean, if you really want to do it, you could do it this way, and this way. And he says, okay, cool. And he goes and does it. And so for me, I can see how I've been blinded so much by that fear that I haven't just done the simple thing and find a lawyer and find an accountant and go forward. And it may seem like such a facetious or simple thing, but I think it happens to us so often in life, where we get blinded by so many different traumas or struggles or conflicts that we're experiencing, that in other aspects of life, we don't really see what's going on. Yeah. And so I try to remind myself this. I'm trying to remind you as much as I'm, again, reminding myself that when we see someone that's behaving in a way that really confounds us, really baffles us, like why would they believe such a thing? And then we say to ourselves, I thought they were smarter than that, or how could they be so stupid? Saying those phrases and pull back and say, wait a second, what might they be feeling right now? You know, someone who would show up to a march on Washington and then break into the Capitol building and go down that. Many of us would be like, how could they be, many of us, not everyone, but many of us could be like, how could they be so stupid to think that these elections were fraudulent? Like, they went through so many processes. It got certified in so many different places. Really, everyone is against them? Like, to believe that how could they? And to pull back and go, what might these people be feeling? Maybe they're feeling terribly hopeless, helpless, powerless, and feel like have this fear, this despair that everything is slipping away from them. I'm not saying that they should have these feelings, but what if they do have these feelings? Maybe it can explain some of their behaviors and their actions more. And before people jump on me and get very angry for trying to humanize and understand what happened at the Capitol, I also want to give an example of a simple thing, like with George Floyd. Instead of being like, why would this guy do this? Why don't we pause and imagine how this guy might be feeling? Instead of, if he's on the ground, let's imagine how this guy might be feeling instead of just continuously putting more pressure and violence on this person. I think too often we look at somebody and we say either they're stupid or they're evil. And we don't pause to ask, why are people doing this? I remember watching there's a documentary when I lived in Oakland. There's a film festival that a friend put on. I think it was called the Matatu Film Festival. Matatu is kind of the mini bus that goes around in Kenya. I think he borrowed the name from that. And it was a film about a young African-American man who went to prison for, I think it was armed robbery of a bank. And throughout the film, they basically talk about what was the emotional context for this guy. How did he get to the point where he was robbing a bank? And it says that he was a straight A student in school, and he was the very kind, like upstanding, I think maybe even the valedictorian of his school. Like, he was going in that direction. And then I think his mom lost his job, her job. And I think his mom got really desperate financially. And like, he got to a point where he felt hopeless. He felt stuck. Like, he had no other options to help his mom and to protect his mom and maybe his siblings and to take care of them. I don't remember the specific examples, but it was really going into this idea that, like, he just got emotionally wrecked and saw no other way out. And they talk about this a lot in the hostage negotiation course that I took. I think it was it last year? Yeah, it was last year, about 10 months. No, it was 2 years ago because COVID. It was in 2019 and probably about maybe June or March or something. I took a course on hostage negotiation that was run by an organization that does a lot of police training in the U.S. And it was phase 1 and phase 2 hostage negotiation. And one thing that they talked about was just how there are some hostage takers who are criminals and do this professionally, or not professionally, but they kind of know what they're doing. But there are a lot of hostage takers who are just people who are having the absolutely worst day of their life. And so they lose their job, their wife leaves them, and their bank account drops to zero or something. And then they go in and take their boss hostage because he was the one who started the domino effect in their minds. And just this idea that when we get filled with so much emotion, it can really overwhelm our ability to think clearly and to see what's going on. And we take some very, either we take some drastic measures or we don't. We can be often paralyzed by what we're feeling in many ways. They talk about it a lot in martial arts. And I remember taking Krav Maga, and they would talk, I think it was like an adrenaline dump. When you're in, it's one thing to talk about how to deal with a fight, but once you get into a fight and all that adrenaline pumps through your body, or all that fear courses through your body, many people don't know what to do. And so the idea is to practice and to train so that when it happens, our bodies can still respond appropriately. Because a lot of times when we get into that state, we really lose track of what's going on. Oh, and so what I want to try to remember so much is to pause when I hear a comment that really seems like it doesn't make any sense to me, is to ask myself, how might that person be feeling? Is that person afraid? Is that person angry? Why are they angry? What might be making them feel so angry? Is it just the one thing that's making them feel angry, or could something else in their life be making them feel really angry? Do they feel lonely? Do they feel sad? Do they feel ashamed? Do they feel scared? Do they feel hopeless? Do they feel despair? Do they feel joy? Do they feel overwhelming attachment? Do they feel grateful? Do they feel at peace? Do they feel overwhelmed? Do they feel anxious? What are they feeling? What might they be feeling? And who or what might they be thinking is causing those emotions as well, or those feelings? Is it always coming from the one source that it seems to be coming from, or could it be coming from other aspects? So maybe somebody is very certain and clear on what's happening politically, but and very angry at what's going on politically. And then I ask, okay, maybe they're feeling angry politically, but when they think about their professional situation, how do I imagine that they might be feeling? When they think about their medical situation, how do I imagine that they might be feeling? When they think about their financial situation, how do I imagine that they might be feeling? When they think about their romantic situation, how do I imagine that they might be feeling? When they think about their family situation, when they think about their et cetera, like all these different aspects of life, and to try to see how those may be contributing to what's going on. I think so many of us as human beings living in a time when the internet brings so many emotions to our doors are feeling so many things, so much conflict, so much internal struggle about so much. And unfortunately, it can really blind us to what other people see. And it's easy for me to say that and say, oh, other people are blinded by their own fights, but me, no, I can see the world clearly. Yeah, bullshit. We're all blinded by different things, I may have not recognized, what effect did the beard that I was carrying have on others, but also on myself. And what was the large beard conveying to the world that I wasn't necessarily conveying to myself? Was I blinded to what I was actually saying with the look that I have? Again, as I come back to this idea of, I've thought about my business in many ways. Either running workshops or doing audio drills, training people to be leaders, to do emotional leadership, even the app with iFeelio, and certain fears that I've had about what will happen. And almost if I put this app out there, then lots of people might start using it. If lots of people start using it, then it will become a target for people to hack. And once it gets hacked, oh my God, it's worse than nudes getting leaked, because if somebody leaks a personal journal, like where they've been really, really honest with themselves about the internal struggles, that could cause a lot of chaos and a lot of violence in this world. And then I get stuck. I get that fear, that dread can really just paralyze me. And I can just be blinded. If I do this, this is 100% the outcome of what will happen. I put this out there and this is guaranteed this will happen. Other people are like, it's not guaranteed it's going to happen. I remember talking to a friend of a friend. I went to a wedding, a good friend down in Trinidad. And we were about to fly home, and I was talking to this guy in the airport, and, oh, what do you do? And I said, well, I train people how to respond with love, to respond to any situation with love. And then I said, but at the same time, I'm actually terrified of doing this because a lot of the people in the world who really spread the message of love and do so very strongly get killed. MLK got killed, JFK got killed, Gandhi got killed. A lot of these people get assassinated. And he says, yeah, but Gandhi was like in his 80s when he got assassinated. And he said, and there are a lot of people who don't get killed. Dalai Lama hasn't been killed. Desmond Tutu hasn't been killed. Nelson Mandela wasn't killed. There are plenty of people who are out there preaching love who aren't getting assassinated. I was like, oh. I was so blinded by the example of MLK, JFK, and Gandhi that I didn't see it so clearly at all. I was so convinced that if I do this, I mean, I'm as good as a dead man. Not necessarily true. And so, just another example of how our fears, our anger, our sadness, our love for something can really blind us in ways. It's the person who's in a relationship and doesn't see how their partner is hurting other people or hurting them. Oh, I just love him. He would never do such a thing. He would never do that. And it happens a lot of times when somebody gets arrested for doing something horribly violent. Oh my God, that was my baby. That was my neighbor. I would never imagine that he would do something like that. It's like, you wouldn't imagine it? Like, you didn't see the signs? You didn't see the signs of him stockpiling weapons or building bombs in the backyard? You didn't think that was you didn't see it coming? And sometimes our love and our affection for someone can blind us to that. So, really just this idea of how what we're feeling, especially if it's very strong, can really physically can blind us from seeing things, but from hearing things, from smelling things, it can really blind or obscure many of our senses, and also kind of our processing and our logic for making sense of what's going on. And I have found calling someone stupid or calling someone dumb doesn't work in the first place. It doesn't make them go, yeah, you know what? I am being stupid. I am being dumb. That almost rarely, if ever, works. And two, it doesn't make me feel good going around thinking that I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are stupid. Especially when I know that they're smart. I know that they're capable. I know that maybe even if they don't know it right now, that they can learn. They're able to learn and process these things. So to try to remember that, to try to pause and ask, what might this person be feeling? How might this person be feeling? Again, yeah, for their sake, so that we don't attack them, calling them stupid and basically break our relationship with them because of their beliefs. But also for our sake, so that we're not sitting here building up so much anger and hatred towards someone and totally missing the context and thinking that it's one thing and it's actually another thing. So, I don't know. Is there someone in your life where you've been sitting here going, I can't believe they would be so stupid. Like, how could they believe such a thing? This is absurd. Like, don't they understand? And then to try to pause and go, how might this person be feeling? Conversely, have there been people in your life who have said that to you? Like, how could you be so stupid? Like, what are you thinking? How could you be so blinded to what's actually happening? And then pause and go, how might I be feeling? What am I feeling about everything? Not just about this specific topic, but how am I feeling in general? They say, what do they say? There's a couple books that talk about how so much of our decision-making process is based on emotions, that I think they were saying that the emotional something like the emotional connection in the brain was severed between like the emotional connection and the prefrontal cortex. Like something about that decision-making process was severed where it cut off the emotional part, and people weren't able to make simple decisions. So just how important emotions can be to decisions and to beliefs and to actions, and how often we overlook how people are really feeling or how they might be feeling. Because I think if we pay attention to that, we may have a better clue at why people are doing the things that they're doing, and why we're doing the things that we're doing, and why we are believing the things that we're believing. Because, yeah, if we want to start coming together as a society, we got to start. It's going to be impossible to come together along beliefs. We all have different beliefs for different reasons. But if we can come together and really just try to bond and recognize that what other people are feeling and express how we're feeling, then maybe we can connect on an emotional level and not the intellectual or belief level. Perhaps that'll bring us closer together. I don't know. I think I feel so stuck sometimes where I have friends who have wildly different beliefs and take wildly different actions, and it can baffle me a lot. And I don't want to feel alone and disconnected from all of these people. These are people I really care about. And my approach of thinking that they're stupid hasn't really worked. It hasn't made me feel a lot worse, and I imagine it's made them feel a lot worse. And so, again, maybe if we just paused and we did a better job at expressing how we're feeling to these people, and we asked them or imagined how they might be feeling, then we could come a lot closer together. Because at the end of the day, there's only so many things we could feel, and many of us are feeling the same things. Just we don't know it. So for all of you out there who are feeling angry or sad or confused or hopeless or full of despair or hopeful or strong and rebounding and full of joy and love and gratitude, it's okay to feel any of those. You're not alone. I feel so many of those all the time. Right now I feel tired. I feel somewhat hopeless. I feel hopeful. I feel confused. I feel baffled. I feel hungry. I feel thirsty. I feel antsy. I feel kind of stir crazy. I feel thirsty again. I feel a little playful. I feel angry. I feel scared. I feel lost. I feel worried. I feel grateful. I feel present. I feel cold. I feel overwhelmed. I feel a headache. Yeah. I think we're all feeling lots of things all the time. And sometimes we forget that. So just a reminder that I want to get better at this, at reminding myself to pay attention to how I feel and how you might be feeling. And maybe it'll help you as well. On that note, I'm going to go get a drink of water because, again, I'm feeling thirsty. All right, y'all. Take care.